Hi, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to Guild Chat. We've had a really interesting week this week. Actually, the past longer than before this week. We have released our final wing in the current raid. We've released Stronghold of the Faithful. For the past week or so, we've had these videos that we've been showing on our YouTube channel with behind-the-scene designs of the Keep construct. I hope you watched them. If you did not, you should really remedy that because they're really, really good. Today we're going to venture a little bit farther into the raid wing. So I've got a couple of people here with me who worked on this, and I'll let you guys go down for the people who are new and introduce yourselves and talk about what your role was in this raid wing.
Me?
Yeah.
All right.
Bobby!
You are next in line.
You are next in line, man.
From shortest to tallest.
Oh, that was an accident, but it's cool.
My name is Bobby Stein. I'm a narrative lead at ArenaNet, and I'm the primary story person for the raids.
Hi, I'm Teddy Nguyen. It's been a while since I've been on here, actually.
I'm so glad you're back.
I'm a designer on raids. I work specifically on the Twisted Castle portion of Stronghold of the Faithful.
I'm Jason Reynolds. I'm one of the game designers and team lead for this raid release.
Oh, thank you all for joining. You guys, we're going to take some questions at the end, so if you think of questions while we're talking, just drop them in chat and we will round them up. And if we haven't accidentally already answered your question during the talk, we will do it at the end of the discussion. So I want to start and talk a little bit about story accessibility. I know you talked about this some on the forums, but let's talk about kind of story accessibility and how we've got this perception that maybe we're locking all of this behind a raid wing.
Yeah, so I mean,
and we're not.
Let's see, what's a good way to put it? Raids don't and haven't ever gated main story progress. So if you're more of a story-focused PvE player, we don't gate anything on it. But I think we're also sensitive to the desire for players to want to try and get story where they can.
Yeah,
and that's why I think the cleared instance exploration is a really cool way to go in there, get some achievements, and kind of soak up the atmosphere of it.
Yeah. And I think most people. Sorry, I think most people know about this, but for those who don't, can you kind of run us through it?
Yeah. If anyone goes in and clears, actually, it gets any progress from killing a boss, right?
Yeah.
The raid will have a checkpoint, and then you can go in with that person as the instance owner, and it will reflect their progress. So if the instance is totally cleared and they're the I guess the first person going in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're the first one in, they take 9 others who haven't done it, and you can explore to your heart's content.
Yeah, a lot of people on Reddit or on the official forums will announce, hey, I've got a cleared instance, do you want to come along? And it's awesome that they're, kind of getting that community spirit.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, totally cool. And yeah, I mean, I've actually gone into a couple of cleared instances and then given little tours. So, yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, I mean, and other people have too. So what I would just say is if you know anyone who's cleared it, go along with them. And if anyone's cleared it and wants me to go in there, I'll come along and point out some of the cool stuff that, everybody from the team has worked on. Because, I mean, there's so much love that went into this raid.
It sounds cheesy, but it's really true.
No, it's true. I mean, everybody on the team worked super, super hard. And, we actually got a little bit of extra time too, where we were like, hey, you know what, we could put this out now, but if we had a little more time we could really make it awesome, and we got that time.
Yeah. Okay, now I think it's great that players are doing this. I know a lot of you are like, yeah, okay, but I don't know anybody, and I don't even want to do this. I don't even want to try to find somebody. I don't want to try to clear it. I'm not a raider, and I don't like that and I feel like maybe I'm missing out on this entire big story because it's behind the raid, but we're not locking like an entire story behind this.
No, and if there's anything that's if there's any information or relevant stuff from the raid that is going to be continued elsewhere, we'll make sure that players are brought up to speed, and we have a number of different ways we can do that. But the other thing I would say is just go to the raid lobby. If you have HOT, you can go in. It's accessible from Lion's Arch, and it's a cool space that we just put out a couple months ago, right?
Yep.
And
yeah, Byron was really happy about that.
Oh, it's awesome.
Byron,
There's his baby.
Byron did
Yeah.
a
It
good job of that.
looks great. It's fun to even just run around in there.
Oh yeah, there's the raid training with the Special Forces place where you can practice your DPS on it, and there's a lot of really cool services, and there's a lot of cool players that hang out in there. And honestly, LFG is another way you can do it, but I think the raid lobby is really designed to be a place where people can kind of meet up and talk about that stuff. So I would say go there or check social media.
Yeah, well, and I've even seen in-game, I've even seen just hanging out in the raid lobby, people saying, hey, I've got this thing cleared, I can take 9 people, who wants to come with me? So it's a testament to our community. You guys do really well on that side of things.
It's also worth mentioning, it's kind of a delicate balance we strike, since we don't want to gate any really key core story behind the raid, but at the same time, you want to tell an interesting story in the raid also. So
Yeah, it's not, okay,
finding
we
that
have to
balance
make
is
this
difficult
suck.
sometimes.
Is not really a
Be
work
devoid
goal.
of story, just mechanics. That'd be terrible.
Nobody says anything.
Well, no, and the team has been exceptionally welcoming of it. Like, there's always this balance that you want to. It's a game, right? People are meant to play it. It's meant to be
Right.
interactive. But what I think has been really wonderful about this team, and just like I think the studio culture in the past couple of years, is just this desire to make sure that the narrative and the game design and the art are all kind of working together. So yeah, I mean, we took something that I think a lot of people wouldn't have traditionally thought as a cool vehicle for story, but I think we've really tried to do it in our own way, play to the strengths of our game and the passions of the people on the team, and it's just become another cool, one more way that we can tell a story in the game.
Yeah. I will say, I'm just going to talk for a minute as a player, and as far as rating overall, I like to joke that, I'm a giant scrub, but honestly, I'm a pretty good casual player. Casual hardcore, can I be that? Is that allowed?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. If I can't, then I just like stuffed myself into that category because reasons. But I'm not traditionally like hardcore. I'm gonna be at the top of every leaderboard. I'm going to absolutely hardcore raid 3 hours every night. I'm somebody with a full-time job and a family and other hobbies who really loves this game and wants to experience the content. So, and what I also am is somebody who's willing to, I'll try anything once. So I've dipped my toes into the water on pretty much every gameplay mode that we have, including raiding, and it's a higher level content. I mean, it is more difficult structured content. There's this, Byron really talked well about being in the team structure, because raiding is about being part of a team and, being part of a larger group. So I was willing to give it a shot, even though I'm not traditionally a raider, and I really found it to be fun. It was more difficult, but if I can do it, you guys can probably get in there and give it a try. So at least give it a shot and see, because I found it to be a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. And I think Jason, you were in some tests with me where I was like super stressed out because I expected to go in and I was like, all right, I've been playing Guild Wars 2 for a long time. I play every day. I've got like a level 80 of every profession in the game. I got this. I know how to play. I know how to play my Ellie. And I went in there super cocky. And
Yeah, it forces
how did
you
that
to.
work out for me?
I don't think we killed it.
It was not pretty.
But it does force you to learn your class and really optimize.
Yeah.
And pay attention to the environment and any attacks on the ground and so on.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, if you want to experience this new content, I really recommend at least give it a shot, and don't go in like I did, expecting to kill it in the first 30 minutes, because that was not a fun day for me.
All right, here's the call out, Ruby. Do you click your skills?
No, I don't.
You're halfway there, then.
I was like, do I what? Oh, no.
Yeah, mouse
How
click,
dare you.
slowest thing in
I'm
the
sorry.
world.
No, I don't mouse click. So do you have to like not mouse click? Did you just like
Being a clicker is a thing.
Did you just like shame all the clickers?
I'm
Oh, I
sorry,
know.
I
If-
just clicker shamed.
No,
Yeah.
like if Twitch chat sees people clicking skills, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
So I'm aware.
I've
But
seen a few videos on YouTube, I believe, where like raiders are clickers, and they're still doing a good job. They could do better.
there it is.
I could not be clicking.
Okay.
I
let's
just want to add to that, though. One thing that I've noticed a lot in either the raid lobby or even just on like Reddit or the forums is there are guilds that are open to teaching players and trying to get them up to speed.
That's
And
how I
there's-
got my kills.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
guides that people have written that talk about the kind of gear you need and the kind of skills the rotations and everything. So, I mean, the information's out there. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I have to work toward getting some better gear, because right now I get squashed fast. But people have been really great, and I think the other thing that I've seen other people talk about in Wing 3 is just that the first stretch, that first event, kind of allows you to dip your toe in and gradually kind of and because there's like little. They're not like checkpoints in a traditional sense, but there's sections where it's like, hey, you've done this thing, and now you know you've made some progress. You'll get better by the time you're done.
Yeah, that event's actually really nice for that because you have very visible checkpoints to be like, all right, we're making progress, we're doing better.
This is the first part of Stronghold with Faithful, right?
Yeah, this is Siege of the Stronghold, the first event, and so it's kind of like you split your team into two, and one team goes upper, one team goes lower. The upper team is kind of like Navy SEALs, and they get back there and take down the towers, while the lower team escorts Glenna.
Yeah, I didn't feel like a Navy
It's a little bit of like
SEAL.
a relay race. And as players learn the event, they actually have visible checkpoints. Like, we're at Tower 2, now we're at Tower 3, Tower 4, and they can feel the progression.
Yeah, and this is one of the more accessible ones. You don't have to have done the other two to get in here. You can just go in and...
Oh, yeah, that was actually one of the design philosophies that Crystal and I talked about when we were first getting the pitch dock for raids at all built, is that we wanted each wing or section or whatever we ended up calling it to be accessible by anyone at any time, because Guild Wars isn't a vertical progression game. We want players to have their gear and be able to start on Chapter 3 if they want, go back to 1 later, hop in. We didn't want to lock content away.
Yeah. Talking about that first event takes me to something else that I wanted to mention, in that you don't have to fight at all to go in and talk to Glenna. Glenna has a lot to say. You can go in and just chat with her. No, I mean, that's a good thing. That's totally a good thing.
Yeah, she's a sassy, chatty Kathy.
She is super sassy. I love when she was like, so these bombs are really unstable, so don't even ask because you can't have one. I was like, dang, okay.
She's got sass.
Yeah, but if you go in before you hit any fights or anything, Glenna is the NPC you're going to run into right away, and she has a lot of backstory to give. It's all vocalized. It's not, okay, open this, read this box, and we'll talk about that in the audio section later. But there's a lot of story to be had before even the first fight, so just run in and chat with her.
Yeah. There's that. You can talk to her. There's a little book of like her
journals there.
Journals that'll fill you in on the events of the previous raids and some of the lore. And actually, so you can talk to her in the beginning, and then after you beat that first event, she's hanging out in the courtyard because she doesn't want to have anything to do with the keep construct. And you can talk to her there. But then after you traverse the Twisted Castle and then beat the end boss, she has more stuff to say. So depending on where you are in your progression, she'll have lots of stuff, and she has her funny moments and stuff. But
yeah, if you're a lore person that raids, go off the beaten path. With our storytelling in raids, we try really hard not to break up the flow of the raid, because a lot of people are just interested in mechanics or the competitive side of it, and we recognize that. Yeah. So we try and include lore as something you discover in raids.
Speaking of the courtyard, let's talk about design on the courtyard, because I do want to touch on the courtyard. I want to talk about the Twisted Castle. I keep doing it. I'm sorry. And I want to talk about Zera. We'll talk about.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll talk about that too. So there's a lot going on in the courtyard. I mean, it looks like this very pretty, quiet place with butterflies, and it's kind of mesmerific.
I mean, from like we wanted a room that players could finish the first event and have a breather spot before going into the boss. And why not utilize those spaces as a chance to tell story? So we hit a lot of little bits around in there. There's these animals that walk around, and if you get too close, they shatter and disappear like a mesmer illusion, which is super cool. Charlie just like randomly did that, and like he's like, "Hey Jason, I did this thing. Do you like it?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Put that everywhere."
Why was he talking like that? That's funny.
But yeah, the courtyard's a good opportunity for us to just squeeze in some story, but still have a room for players to like hang out.
There's also an achievement in there if you can find a way to stick it to the white mantle.
Yeah.
What? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Do
You
we
made
want to
me so
spoil that, or
happy.
do we
You
want to
made
make
me
them?
so happy.
We can tell the story behind that, I think. It's
Go for it.
obvious. So there's a statue, well, it's a suit of armor, that you can knock over. And if you knock over the armor, Glenna very ironically says, "Way to stick it to the white mantle, hero." And
Yeah, good
originally,
job. You pushed over a statue.
originally it's supposed to be a wastebasket, but
We
that,
get
that might have been
the
too
prop,
on the
yeah.
nose. So we went with a statue instead.
Running through the courtyard, kicking over the trash cans.
Yep.
It's just a thing.
Yeah, we were actually brainstorming the different what's gonna be in there? What do you want to do? And
Yeah. What are some achievements?
yeah, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool if you could go in and just trash the place? You know, like you're storming a castle, and I don't know. And
Yeah.
it
Kicking
seemed to
over
be
their
too
trash
much.
cans.
Didn't quite fit or whatever. But that was.
Then we were
kinda-
talking about the office or office space or whatever.
Yeah,
it
totally.
is,
Oh, like
where they're,
smashing a copier
yeah,
kind of thing.
Oh!
smashing the copier.
Yeah. So it kind of evolved into that.
Into
and
kicking over the suit of armor. It's really funny. I mean, I was cracking up the first time I pushed that over, and Glenna's like snarking on me. She does that a lot.
And only
man.
one person can get it at a time, but I think if you actually leave the instance and come back, it resets.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So if you
Okay,
see
yeah,
somebody
why
else
is
get
that?
it, and it was funny watching live streams, people were playing, and somebody would just wander off, and then you hear on headset, they're like, I just got an achievement. I knocked this thing over. And they're like,
no.
where? And then nobody could see it because the damage had already been done.
Oh, because the thing's already knocked over.
Yeah,
Can we give him
exactly.
like another achievement for putting it back together? There's like a big line to knock this thing over and pick it back up again. So that's just like one little thing that's going. If you really walk around and interact with things in the courtyard, I mean, we talked about how my character went up to Saul D'Alessio's statue and got super judgy on him. She was like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
did this."
Yeah, if you're a human, you are not very kind.
I was not a nice person.
Yeah, we tried, I think, where we could to vary the dialogue based on what profession you were playing, what race you were playing, and all those circumstances. So I know Teddy, Jason, Keenan, like we all kind of were like, oh, what would be cool moments? So like if you have an engineer in your party and you come up to the mines, your engineer will comment on it. But if not, then we fall back to a different line of dialogue. And then if you've got a mesmer in your party and you go
Yay.
in whenever people are commenting on the things they're seeing, if you're a mesmer, because you can relate to it or whatever, you'll either be dismissive because you're like, there ain't nothing.
I could do that in my sleep.
Yeah, totally.
That's not what you said yesterday.
Yeah. So it was really cool. And yeah, there's a few journals that haven't been discovered yet. I've been checking the wiki to see
Really?
yeah, they're actually, I'll just say that they're part of the first event in the lead up to the courtyard, but it seems like people have found the other stuff in the other areas. But yeah, totally explore. It's a really cool map. I think the artists did a great job. And
Yeah, Kevin killed it. Did a good job.
Yeah. You guys all did. You were talking to me yesterday about the plaques on the statues.
the
This
infamous
was a good
plaques.
story. I'm
This
sorry.
It's one of those stories where it's like, why was this an issue?
The joys of game development.
Yeah. So the statues didn't have plaques on them. They just had a floating name because that's what we do in other parts of the game. And then so
and
I
it
asked,
works there.
yeah, and I'd asked a couple of different artists, like, hey, do we have plaques? Just something to attach this to, so it's not a floating name.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, I don't think we have any plaques. And like, maybe we'd have to make a plaque. And I'm like, okay, make a plaque. And it's like weeks went by and nobody could decide on what we should do with these things. And like, leave it or not, get a plaque, make a plaque, find a plaque. And
There
then
was
finally,
so much argument over whether or not we already had plaques.
yeah. And I'm just like, why is this a thing? And then finally Kevin was like, yeah, no, there's plaques right here. Boom, done. Like, yeah, we got our plaques.
All right, so it's confirmed we do have plaques now.
We do have plaques.
All right,
We
so
did
there's a lot going on in like this quiet little courtyard.
There is actually,
And,
yeah.
Yeah, so take some time, look around. Jason and Teddy were telling me that they may have been watching some people's live streams
Uh-huh.
and saw they were just like, yeah, interact, delete, interact,
Well,
delete, interact. I don't need this.
It's
And then
such
they're
a
like, wait, I don't know what's
testament
going
to
on.
Raiders and then their play style. I mean, that's what I do generally in the game. I'm like, don't care. Give me the loot and the achievements.
And then you're like, wait, what's going on? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, there'll be this big scene open, and the streamer will have their inventory open. It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, good. I can work on clear. I can clear
I
my
worked
inventory.
for like literally 2 days on this thing, and he went next.
Well, that was the thing. They had just cleared the first event. The courtyard opened. Zira's there, giving her monologue, and then it's like, oh, what loot did I get? Oh, let me switch characters. And,
I know.
and log out.
It's one of those things when like you're working on it, you don't really think about
Yeah.
that, and then as you see it or even do it yourself, you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I have to note that for next time.
Duly noted. But if you do want the story,
Yeah,
do
like
want some interaction, there's there.
like I said, it's a balance. It's important to have those things, even if not necessarily everyone will catch them or appreciate them.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. So you finish the courtyard, and you move on to
Keep
The twist-
construct.
which we've talked about a whole lot. Was
I
there
know.
anything you didn't get to cover?
There's videos on YouTube.
It's a good thing. It's not like, geez, Jason.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover on that?
No,
Are we
we
good?
cover a lot of it.
We,
in
like,
the,
talked
in the
about that a
YouTube
lot.
Videos. Yeah, I don't want to.
How you have such nice teeth, Jason?
I don't know.
Oh, here
I
we
got
go.
it from my mama.
You're so pretty.
Yeah, keep construct.
Jason's like, I really, really hate this.
Yeah, I don't know. What do we want to talk about?
We
for
talked
Keep
about the
Construct?
Twisted Castle.
Ah, my
Let's do that.
baby.
Because you ran me through the Twisted Castle, and I was really I was incredibly confused, but I was also having a really good time.
Well, you're supposed to be confused, so I think that part worked. The Twisted
Also
Castle,
confused.
the Twisted Castle was a blast to work on. For people who don't know what Twisted Castle is, basically it's a section of the raid that's been blown apart by Zera's magic, and it's floating islands and portals and all kinds of creepy things going on, and you have to try and navigate this maze with 10 of your allies in order to get through to Zera. And I think there's a few things you wanted to talk about specifically
Yeah,
on
there
it.
was. I really enjoyed the Escher look. I'm
Yeah.
a little bummed that game mechanics don't allow me to run up the underside of stairs, but that's okay.
Me too.
Was this a thing?
I
Is it
love
now a
that
thing?
feature. That is not a thing we will ever have.
So, Teddy and I ran through this part of the raid a few weeks back, and I was really excited because I really enjoy the concept of an insanity mechanic in games, but I'm too much of a wuss to handle the gore and scare and jump scares that come with them in most games. And we basically have an insanity mechanic.
Yeah, so in Twisted Castle, there's a madness meter that builds up, and it slowly accrues as you're as long as you're in this environment, because it's such like a zany, off-kilter place that you're very disoriented, and Zera's magic is just exerting its influence on you. There's also the big tower in the middle, which is like the Maddening Tower is a very dominating presence in the middle that's spinning around with Zera's face on every side. And looking at that actually causes you to accrue madness as well. So madness builds up and you start getting debilitating effects. You start like getting slowed, tormented, talking to yourself. Eventually, you start getting feared, which is really dangerous in Twisted Castle.
I was really unhappy the first time I realized that was a thing.
And at 99 stacks, you have a heart attack and die, basically.
Bobby, you're looking like you enjoyed this so much.
Oh, it was great because when Teddy was trying to explain how it all worked and just hearing just how progressively like more awful things would happen to you as it would build up. Because I mean, I have to understand at least on a base level what the mechanics are to make sure that if there's any dialogue or anything else narratively that
It
needs
makes
to tie
sense.
into it, that it fits together. And yeah, it was just between that and the haunting statues, and then the Inviso floor. Yeah.
I forgot about that. Thank you for warning me. Okay, so you have the madness. Can you slow? You can slow or reverse some of it, can't you? in the
Yeah,
fountains?
if you interact with the fountains, you can dip your hands in them or drink from them, and they either give you immunity to madness or they remove some of the madness.
Do you need the mastery for that?
I don't have the hand washing mastery, so
No?
that's
Dang it, I forgot that.
Not shaking your hands.
so what. I mean, and, you know, we're starting with this weird mesmery place that's all over the place. What gave you the idea for this madness mechanic in particular?
I just figured, like, Mesmers, Zera's a very, very powerful Mesmer, it wasn't obvious. Mesmers are about illusion, about tricking you, about, like, just messing with your mind. So Madness fits very naturally in with the idea that Zera is exerting her influence on you while you're in here. Like, you're going nuts because her magic's working on you.
And you have these floors that aren't really floors.
Yeah, I mean, that comes again from the
Why
whole
would you
illusions
do
thing.
that?
And I'm not gonna lie, the day of the release, I was watching so many streams of people like
Teddy!
running through the Twisted Castle, and they would hit that section of floor and just fall through, and I would just cackle.
Teddy!
We all would.
I would just die.
It was so wonderful.
Okay, so I'm going to pause and tell a story on these two. Because, Jason, you looked so happy telling me this story. Day one, they're like all crowded around their computers, and they're watching people live stream this raid. And there was one live streamer who, their whole raid group, Glenna's like setting up her bomb, and their whole raid group like
yeah.
stacks
That's
on
great.
Glenna.
That's glorious. This is in the first event, and so Glenna drops a bomb to open a door, because she's a boss. Okay, and
It's true.
She warns players don't get near it, and the whole raid team was standing right on top of it and blew up and wiped immediately, and it was glorious.
This
I was
is
so
why you
happy.
pay attention.
And what did you do?
I laughed.
There it is.
I laughed a lot.
It is, and it's not like, oh gosh, you guys are terrible human beings.
No,
it's,
it was
hey,
so. Yeah.
this is the thing I made. Okay, Bobby, you might be maybe a little bit meaner.
Oh,
All right, so we have, speaking of looking at the tower, you also have the haunting statues, and it was a super effort to call them by the right name just now.
All right, so
So you have to tell the story because this never ceases to make me happy.
someone's probably thinking Weeping Angel right now, and I'm gonna hit you. But
Everybody is thinking Weeping Angels.
I had never seen Doctor Who before before making Twisted Castle. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not lying. I'd never seen it.
Yeah, she
so-
like totally didn't take these off of Weeping
Yeah,
Angels.
like I was just like, oh, we'll make these statues that chase you when you're not looking at them, and they're like, oh, Weeping Angels, and I was like, weeping what? What are you talking about?
yeah. I was like the Boo Ghosts in Mario.
that was the other one I hear sometimes. But yeah, no, I'd never seen Doctor Who. I've seen the episode since then, and that is actually why they teleport you to the front. Secret here. They used to just kill you when they caught you. But I saw the episode, and the Weeping Angels send you back in time. So I figured, oh, hey, the Haunting Statues can send you back in time. So that's why they reset you to the front when they catch you.
Yeah, and now there's an achievement. Is it called Don't Blink?
It was called Don't Blink. I think it got
Not sure
changed.
what it
What are we
is
calling
now.
it now? Well,
Bobby,
there's an
Bobby
achievement.
changes all of my
Well,
achievements.
Bobby!
I changed some, and
So-
then editing changes the rest.
So, like,
Somebody go get David.
pulling back the curtain a little bit, design always tries to sneak puns and pop culture references into our
Always. I
achievements.
feel like that's a part of the prereq for making achievements
Yeah.
in any game.
Yep. And Bobby always takes them out because he hates fun.
Love is bunny stuck.
That
That's
one-
awesome.
that one-
Because
still
he
there.
hates fun.
Yeah. 99 Problems
I
is
love
not
you,
named
Bobby.
that anymore.
What?
It was named that when I sent it over.
What was this?
But ultimately, the banhammer of David came in.
So it's called Evasive Maneuvers now, but that achievement used to be called 99 Problems, and
NA buff ain't one. Thank you.
yeah, you can figure out the rest.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it got cut. Boo.
So sad.
Well, you know, we.
So did
Maybe
the
don't
Ring
wanna
of
go
Fire one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
yep, yep.
the challenge mode for Keep Construct is down, down, down. And it used to be Ring of Fire, and then the description text was down, down, down.
I
Which was
love it.
hilarious.
Oh,
Yeah.
stuck in my head now. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, man.
See, we're funny. We like fun. Writing, not much.
I'm the miserable member of the team. I
Bobby
guess.
also likes fun, just maybe a different.
Old Man
kind.
Stein over
Old
here.
Man Stein is a different view of fun.
All right, we have a new boss name.
Actually, it's interesting because you included a bunch of the design team and the artists and the people who worked on the content in the naming for the
Oh,
Keep
yeah.
Construct fight.
Yeah. So actually, all three of the raids have names that track back to a team member.
Really?
And you know, we changed the name so that it fits more in the universe and stuff. But most of them are pretty much like tributes to people who worked on it.
So is Old Man Stein in there?
No, I am probably one of the few people on the team who does not have a name in there.
All right, we gotta get
I'll
we gotta
save
get
it
on that.
maybe for
Lame.
the next one or the whatever. But
We'll get you somewhere.
yeah, I'll be a dead body or something somewhere.
Speaking of dead bodies, there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
little something to find in there.
There
that
is
was an
one.
awesome accidental transition just now.
Don't drink the water.
Oh yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, no, there's actually,
Gross.
and this is kind of tracking back. So some of the environmental storytelling that we tried to do is just, for people who explore and they want to get a I don't know, more in-depth impression of the people who inhabit this place. Look around. You'll find some journals. You'll find some other things. And that was actually, it was funny too because the members of the team have been really kind in showing me how to do a little, very light technical implementation of doing certain things.
Oh, wow.
My stuff doesn't always work right, and it also can look very like hot garbage because I'm not an artist and I don't have the tools and the eye necessarily. So I just kind of threw a body somewhere, and it was just. Yeah, I mean, it looked really
It
crap.
looked like somebody took their Ken doll and like jammed it into.
Oh
the
yeah.
mud.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, I couldn't find a model that matched, the I couldn't get one to look like the thing that I wanted it to look like. So I'm like, I'll just bury it. And it was
Oh,
like,
no.
it was basically, it looked like a naked bald guy with his head sticking out of the mud. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Maybe he's been there for a while.
Sure.
And then I was like, how do I get
Your face
stink
is
lines coming
amazing
off
right
this
now.
or like fish eating out, and whatever. So anyway, I don't remember. I think it was Kevin. He was just like, yeah, that's got to change. I was like,
Yeah.
it was funny too because I put in a proper request, right? I'm like, I need a dead body and he needs to be wearing these clothes. Can you put it like here?
Can I pause to point out that our job is amazing?
Yeah,
That you
it's
make requests like this and
it's
nobody bats an eye.
one of the more fun aspects of it, right? So the best email I got, I think it may have been from Dana or maybe from Kevin, but it was like, okay, I killed this dude for you and buried him here. I was like, okay, thanks.
Neat.
Yeah.
Seriously, we get to send amazing emails.
Yeah.
Bobby's
Oh
from
my
Jersey, so you know.
Yeah, I was about to
It's
say
nice.
it really speaks to my roots. So we didn't have any cinder blocks to weigh the thing down, so I had to just kind of say
I
he
know
had
where we
rocks
can
in
get
his
some
pockets.
rubble.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. He's wearing plate.
Yeah.
Kind of killed.
Okay,
himself,
everybody
I
else I've seen can swim in full plate, and they can do it
think. True.
really easily.
Fair point.
It is
Whatever.
funny seeing how far the differences between what a designer feels is acceptable for art and what an artist feels is acceptable for art. Like there's
horrified.
this term one of our effects artists told me that I had never heard before, and I just love it. It's called found art. And like when I'm building something and I show it to the effects team, the first thing they ask me is this found art? And basically, is it art that I found somewhere else in the game to try and build something with? And they're
The
like,
answer's
no,
always yes.
just get rid of it.
Just
like,
We'll
stop.
make it new thing.
It's like using clip art.
Yeah.
It looks like you're trying to put a body in the water.
I
Would
can
you
help
like
you
some
with
help
that.
with
Yeah.
that?
You tried.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the portals in the Twisted Castle, and then I want to move on to the really big angry lady.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she has a name. I had something that I had asked you because you go through these portals in the Twisted Castle, and you just like come out wherever.
Mhm.
And I was working really hard to figure out the pattern of okay, so if I go here, then I need to go here, and this is where I need to go next. But there's not a pattern. Why? It's so hard and confusing.
Because Zara's a jerk.
Okay.
It's the long and short of it.
Can you always blame things on her?
Sure.
So, like, we had talked about at one point randomizing where the portals go.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we decided not to do that because we wanted Twisted Castle to be about mastery, like something you learn how to do, and then you get better and better and better at doing. So, Twisted Castle is one of those places that initially it's going to be super confusing because it's supposed to be, but one of the things Alphas did was they drew a map of it, and like when I saw that, I'm like, that's so awesome. So like I fully
Really?
expect players to map this place out and like start making speed runs of it and all that kind of stuff. And like
Oh,
that
yeah.
that's
Man.
totally the intention for. because it feels good to be able to master content.
Yeah, I
Um,
fully anticipate players doing that in a couple minutes.
And learning. Yeah.
And also, I mean, if you feel like you're suffering in Twisted Castle, I was suffering too because for the first time ever in my life, I came down with really bad vertigo
Oh, that's right.
while I was working on this. So, like, I was looking at my monitor and everything's spinning in my head, and I'm like, this is too real.
This is not okay. So this is like the external manifestation of Teddy's vertigo.
Yeah, vertigo's not fun.
Well, I'm glad you got better, and thank you for Twisted Castle.
Yeah.
I halfway mean thank you. I will mean it more, and I will feel strongly about thank you after I master it. So
You'll get there.
You'll be guys.
You're not a
You'll
clicker,
be
you'll be
fine.
fine.
I'm not a clicker. I'll be fine. That is now my mantra. All right. So what comes after Twisted Castle?
Zira.
What's
is
her name?
Zira is her name now.
You guys have to tell this story.
Yeah, so Zira is the last boss. She presents herself very early in the instance, but you don't really get to fight her until the end. Spoilers if you haven't been keeping up. But
by the way, there's spoilers here.
Yeah. The fun fact with her name is that it was always Zara, hence why we keep calling her Zara because we still slip. But when we were going into VO, Bobby was handing off the script, and in there he detailed very clearly the pronunciation of Zara's name as Zira.
I forgot, and it was down to the wire, and I was like, I got to put pronunciation notes, and because right before we go into the studio, we do well, not right before, but like we do table reads, and then we do like revisions and pronunciation guide, so that a lot of fantasy, strange names in our game, and making sure that all the characters are saying it the same way is kind of important, and periodically mistakes are made, and so I forgot. And I was like, I got to come up with a name. And I think you may have actually been out. I don't remember. But, like, I remember I was putting the note in and getting the scripts ready. I was like, Zira.
You were in Burbank. You weren't even in the building,
Oh, no,
right?
I was here.
Were
Like,
you here? Okay.
I used to go down to Burbank all the time.
You see how I try to help you?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I am to blame for this one. I used to go down a lot, but for the past maybe year, I've been mostly just remoting in. It's just we're real busy, and Leah goes down to the studio, and like David and Eve from the editing team. So I mean, we have a lot of representation there. But for any of the content that we work on, like Jason came in on the phone when we had the actress doing Zira, recording, because a lot of it too is contextual, and for a lot of the narrative stuff, I have a pretty good sense of what's happening around. Like, an actor needs to know, who am I talking to? How far away are they? Is this literal, or is there like kind of subtext to it, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying something mean, but I'm laughing about it because I like this person, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So at any rate, but a lot of the mechanical stuff, I only have a very cursory understanding, and it's really important to, like, when we do like team reviews of the dialogue, the designers are in there, sometimes the artists too, because we want to have the characters in the game kind of comment about the way things are in the world, so that there's more of that connection. You feel like you're there, and really important for the enemy dialogue, I think, especially. So, yeah. I know you were in there for this one. I don't remember.
Yeah, that was actually a really fun experience because she had to be like, well, I'm doing a death groan, but am I like dying, or just like wounded, like my lungs filling up with blood? Like, what kind of dying is this?
No, he's right. That was one of the things I really like about watching this VO stuff, because they're like, okay, so I'm bleeding. Like, on a scale of paper cut to exsanguination, like, how much blood are we talking about here? And they ask weird questions, but it's how we get the good. That's why an NPC doesn't run up in your face and like scream at you.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going this way when you're 2 feet away.
Context is key.
Yeah, totally. Well, it was funny too, because we had a lot of dialogue variety for the enemies. We had a few extra actors this time around because of the way we had coordinated things. And so a lot of the white mantle enemies have a lot of variety in the things they can say. So to put it in perspective, the core game, there were like 5 or 7 categories of things that like the game would keep track of. Like, am I in combat? Did I just enter combat? Like, did you run away from me? All these kind of things. Or, am I dying, or did I just kill you? That kind of stuff. And usually, like in the core game, we only had like one line per category, right? So you fight that enemy a lot, you're going to hear the same lines over and over again. So for raids, because we knew we were going to be fighting these things a lot, there's just more actors and there's more lines. So the game will just grab one of them from a bucket and be like, you're going to say this time. So I don't know. Oh, so the funniest,
Where was I?
the ones that are always the funniest in the booth are the death lines, right? Because they're always like, they're trying to. So a lot of times they'll ham it up, they'll drag it out, and it's just like they're dying for like 15 seconds. We're like, nah, you're gonna disappear before you're done saying this. So you gotta die faster, and
Just die faster.
and it's funny too because sometimes they'll add a little extra, so they'll be like, Lazarus, and then they go. And I'm like, you guys are gonna cut that little tail off, right? They're like, well, we'll just send it, and I think we ended up leaving them in. I mean, there's so much stuff going on, and fire coming out of the sky and everything that it looks and sounds fine, but it's just really funny hearing them,
Yeah, you're like peeking
this.
into the booth going, no, seriously, get off the floor.
It's
not.
pretty hilarious.
All right, so that's how Zira came to be Zira.
Yeah,
Yep.
through
And
my mistake.
I mean, it's not all bad because it opened the door to Teddy's 0 to 60 pun, which we have got to find a place for.
Yeah, I can't just throw it out. I mean, I need to set
You have
up
to
for
use it somewhere because I laughed for like 5 minutes.
I'll sneak it in before we finish.
Awesome.
Spoilers.
Yeah, it needs to go someplace because I laughed for like so long after you said that. So see what you did a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out.
All right, so that's how Zira came to be Zira. You've got, and this was something that we had talked about earlier, you've got like this huge prop boss that you've now put into the game, but we cut it down to
Yeah.
size. How did you get there?
Yeah, so I knew from the get-go I wanted to do a prop boss. Prop boss meaning like a giant creature, so like any of our world bosses are prop bosses.
Like Jormag.
Jormag, yeah. But the thing that in my raiding career, when you fight a gigantic, like godlike being, it kind of sucks that you're just hitting their toenails, and then suddenly they're dead. So what I wanted to do was I still wanted my prop boss, but the idea is that she's actually invulnerable. She is that strong. You cannot kill her. So instead, you have to bring her down to size. And that's where the bloodstones come in, and that the whole strategy is you're taking away some of her power and bringing her down to a human size so you can actually go up and punch her in the face.
So how do you feel like it worked out?
I'm
Did
really
she
happy
turn out
with
the
it.
way you like her?
Yeah, I think she's great. I'm really proud of her.
The model's beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really cool.
God, the model's gorgeous.
Yeah, the model looks amazing. Everybody did really good work with that. But it is, I mean, we've had this joke about, oh yeah, it's time to go, clip the Shatterer's toenails, or
Yeah.
it's time to go hit Tequatl in the ankle. And we actually, it's always like, well, thank God their weak spot is way down there instead of like, the tip of their wing where we could never reach.
Yeah.
So it worked out. It was a nice compromise. You take away her magic and shrink her down to size, and then you wail on her for a little bit.
Yeah, and there are other situations where you don't need to take them down to size, but
yeah, and it's totally okay. But
Yeah.
this was a cool new thing that we have in there.
And there's also some like narrative behind it. Like the most dangerous thing isn't Zira's illusions; it's Zira. Zira, the person, is like the most dangerous thing you'll fight. So that you actually fight her is pretty cool.
Yeah. Something that I had forgotten until just now when you were taking me through the raid back then. We came up and I'm like, oh, there's an enemy. And, I immediately like start, pounding my one skill. And I'm like, okay, let's throw a couple things and see how it goes. And she starts like her health bar starts going down. And I got like super smug and cocky about it. And Teddy's just like sitting there smiling at me like, go ahead, do it. You're absolutely right. The illusions are not what you have to worry about. They're just a big distraction that kind of gets you hurt in the end.
Yeah,
So
I love mesmers.
I don't love mesmers. They hurt, and they confuse me. So I guess they're doing it right. Speaking of new mechanics, we also have this whole thing with the changing terrain and the floating islands. And
yeah, that was a cool little thing that just kind of happened. So the islands were
Jason came
always
to
a
work
part
one
of
day
the fight, but I wasn't really planning on doing any sort of terrain manipulation because it's actually really hard to do, and there's a lot of limitations. But but Gwen, the artist that was working on it, she created these cool little random states because she just had extra time, and I liked the look of it. So I thought, well, let's expand on that. And I gave her a couple different layouts. We talked about better ways to break up the islands and then animate them, and she whipped those out pretty quickly, and I hooked them up, and now they randomize. So every time you go into a certain phase in that encounter, they're actually going to be different every single time.
You might say you took it from 0 to 60.
Yay!
Boo.
You did it.
No, we got it in there. It was important. You absolutely took it from 0 to 60. Thank you, Teddy.
You're welcome.
All right, so that's not a thing you can be like, okay, now you go from the first one to the third wing. You go around in this order because it's going to be random.
Yeah, well,
And
I mean, you
pay
always have to
attention.
go in the same direction,
Yeah.
but each individual island will have a different state to it that'll change every single time, and it adds just enough variety that it kind of spices things up a little bit every time you're going through it without it being so random that you feel like you have to relearn the fight every single time you go in, because that's exhausting. Even as a player, I hate doing that stuff.
Yeah. All right, so a couple final things on there. You added, just speaking as a player, you looked and added some things that you felt like needed to be in there, like the run phase, to give it a break from just the super intense combat.
Yeah, that was the other thing. The fight kind of, it's about a 10-minute fight. Your range timer's 11 minutes, I think, but I like to incorporate some ups and downs in encounters, kind of like like a movie or anything else.
Pacing's really important.
Yeah, pacing's really important. And so I wanted there to be some build up to the combat, introduce the mechanics, get in there, start blowing some stuff up, and then you get a breather. And so you do this run phase in the middle of the fight, and that's where the islands are changing around. And the whole idea is that it calms you down, gives you a second to like reformulate your strategy. There's not too much going on, but there's enough to keep you entertained. It allows us narrative drops, so Zira kind of chats a little bit, does her whole villain monologue, and then
Yeah, but how do you really feel about that?
Well, it was funny too because during that part you're like, this is a good opportunity to get her to say things, and
Yeah.
for a while you were like, she ran out of things to say, so I'm gonna kind of split it up and
gonna mix more stuff in there.
yeah, no, it was really super cool. I mean, everything from the mechanics. I mean, when you described, the idea of the bloodstones would be shielded, and you had to do certain things to make them vulnerable, and then it's just knocking things into the lay rifts and
Unstable labor.
yeah. So I mean, it was really cool. A lot of great design ideas that we worked out a narrative purpose to it, and yeah, I think the whole raid is kind of full of stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been a good measured experience and a lot of good gameplay in there. It's been fun. All right, so I have one last question. First, is there anything else that you guys want to cover in this particular raid wing that we haven't talked about yet? Anything about the keep construct that we maybe didn't talk
Yeah, no, I think we're good on that front.
I did want to
Your
mention
teeth.
that Glenna is a tribute and character.
Oh,
A
yeah.
family friend had lost his grandmother, so Glenna was named after her.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
So Glenna was the grandmother's name?
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for doing that. That was nice.
I'm trying to remember the voice actress's name who did Glenna because I think she did a really killer job. She just kind of
She's
brought
so
out a lot of the
good.
personality.
Yeah.
And we had Megan Hollingshead, I think, is who does her voice, and
Sure.
she's in the core game as a lot of kind of more generic characters, but mostly human. I think she had
Yeah.
done some Norm, but we hadn't brought her back in a long time, and I always liked her voice, so we brought her in and just kind of said, she could probably do this, and yeah, she totally killed it. So
Yeah, she nailed it. It was
yeah,
really good.
It's really.
I remember
really
we were
fun.
doing dialogue for it, and I was like, Bobby, she's got to be sassy.
She's super sassy. She nailed it. So she's got stuff to do. She has no patience for
Yeah.
anybody screwing around, and no, you can't have a bomb. And get away from me. And I mean, I guess she's an okay mesmer.
Yeah, it was nice though because I mean we had an opportunity where we're like, yeah, because I guess the design of the Siege to Keep had changed a few. It had gone through some revisions.
Yeah, it went about maybe like 3 revisions.
Yeah, so at first it was like, who are you meeting? Are you meeting anybody, or are you just going with your team? And we were like, can we bring we had talked about, hey, can we put Canuck in there? No, that let's not. Let's kind of keep all that stuff separate. We want the raids to be their own thing. So then it was like, okay, do we have the packed squad leader? No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Or could we have the guy who you meet in the first raid? And then I think the one thing that we saw was there was this constant character who was kind of hanging out in the airship, and if you had managed to teleport up there without having the lay rift mastery, she would kind of throw little attitude at you and stuff. And we're like, oh, maybe we can do something with this character. And then she just kind of turned into, well, let's use her.
Yeah.
And she has to sell you the things that you need, but she's been at all the raids, so it would make sense that she would know something about what's going on.
Yeah, that she knows you.
Then we just kind of developed her character as we went. And,
Yeah, she didn't even used to be the escort, actually. She used to...
She was just kind of like the vendor, right?
Yeah, she was just a vendor originally, and then you were escorting some sort of payload. And then we're like, well, let's just make it an NPC with the payload, and then we'll change up the escort mission so you're actually calling her around so you have more control over it.
Yeah,
It was
that
an
call,
interesting...
that special action skill with the call, I
Sass
love
button.
that thing. Sass.
The sass. I love that because she's like, all right, I will come with you. This does not mean I like you. This doesn't mean you're not the boss of me.
We're just getting this job done.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will do it, but you watch your mouth. So, all right, so we're going to answer a few questions in a minute. So if you have any extra questions that we haven't answered yet, throw them in chat. We'll pick a few. While they're doing that, I wanted to know, I know you guys have been watching a lot of player reactions and a lot of what players have done. Since this came out on Tuesday, what has been your favorite player reaction that you've seen? Or player experience that you've seen?
You mean in a live stream or just online?
Either one. Because I've seen some hilarious stuff on both.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bomb at the door thing was really funny, and then watching somebody fall through the floor, and then a shower of other team members come cratering.
Oh, yeah.
This
This false floor in the Twisted Castle.
Yep.
And then I think the only other thing was just there's been a lot of excitement around the story stuff that we've told and where we're kind of leaving it, that I think is getting people kind of excited and speculating on where we're going to go in the future.
The floor. Just
Yeah.
the
That is
utter,
the trolliest thing.
the utter shock of players running forward and just falling through the false panels of the floor. It gladdens my
it just
heart.
does your heart good, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Do you want to tell? There's a little tell.
Yeah.
If you're careful.
If you look really carefully, the floor shimmers in spots where, it's wobbly in spots where the floor is actually false. It's not completely just a blind, it's not SAB tribulation mode. There's actually a tell. Also, your ground targets won't draw.
Josh is like, hey.
Yeah, your ground targets won't draw on places that don't have collision. So if you use a ground target attack, you can watch where it will draw and where it won't draw, and that's how you can tell also.
Yay. How about you?
I
can-
mean,
you can
all
say the
those
same.
were great. For me, it was watching players discover the mechanics, particularly in Keep Construct, because it's like when you're so close to a product, you don't really know if your messaging is going to be clear or not. And so seeing people actually connect the dots that I tried to put in there was really cool. And then, everybody failing.
So mine, that was kind of a preemptive fun on my part after we announced Stronghold of the Faithful, but before we released it, I was reading a lot of people's comments and I was reading what people had to say, and one guy was like, "Oh, Keep Construct, another boss. We're just going to stack in the corner and throw DPS at it." And I was like, "Go ahead, stack.
You can stack if you want to.
You can stack. Yeah. Let me know how. Come back after. Let me know
Might
how
not
it works
work
out
out
for
very
you."
well, yeah.
So, all right. Do you guys see some questions that you grab what you want? This is all you guys.
Need my glasses.
Let's see, I'll take,
Put your glasses on.
can revenants negate the madness effect? They have blindfolds after all.
And this is from Age Night Road, so thank you, Age.
So the madness effect isn't it isn't literally you going insane. It's Zara's magic exerting its influence on you. So whether or not you can actually see it is irrelevant. It's her magic messing with your mind. So no, you can't negate it as a revenant.
It's a valid question. I mean, all right, so
Yeah.
if you look at the thing and, you know what? That would come back and bite you in the butt anyway, because the haunting statues come after you when you're not looking at them.
Yeah.
And if you're running around with a blindfold, you're not going to last very long.
Yeah, that'd be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Why do raid encounters adjust the camera's field of view? Because
We blaming this on Bobby, or
no.
Not this one.
This is when we were doing the first wing, we noticed that the camera view was just really enclosed, and Crystal had this great idea. She's like, we have this camera that zooms out during, I think, Tequatl. And we tried it out, and it just felt better to be able to see the different, like to see the entire arena.
It does,
and
when you have something that physically big, especially.
yeah, and especially in the Zero encounter, it's really important to be able to see all of the islands at certain points. So if the camera didn't zoom out, that camera actually zooms out the farthest, because I wanted players to be able to see the whole arena.
Yeah, short answer is it plays better that way.
Yeah.
There you go. But I liked your answer too, because it explained more things. So, that last one might be where did the idea to give some of the unique boss weapons sound effects come from? Is that a Drew question, or is it something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm totally
that's
looking
definitely
at
an
Drew
audio.
like, is that something we can talk about?
It's an audio question.
Okay, that's an audio question. You know what we should totally do is take a quick break and come back and talk to an audio person.
Sure.
All right. Thank
Cool.
you guys
Thanks
all
for
very
having
much.
us.
Yeah,
I know
thanks
you
for
have
having
work to
us.
do, so I'll let you guys get back to it and stick around. I'll be back in a minute.
Think you burned your belt?
Oh, dear Lord.
I have a number of questions.
Probably.
Was this your new house?
This is my new house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I didn't
that's-
get kicked out of the neighborhood yet.
I was like, was there this vibe of, hey, we're moving out anyway. May as
No,
well
that's
set
not
my
the old
belt on
place.
fire.
We did the previous
Yeah.
fireball at my old place and my cabin. And they're still standing. And then yes, bought a new house. And
But this isn't why.
this is not why.
Okay.
And I did talk to one of my neighbors. I didn't talk to all of them about the fireball video coming out. But yeah, there was a new Phoenix glider, and it was, hey, let's do the fireball again, and let's do a few more things. So new place is a little quieter, so it was fun, and yeah, it's.
I love it. I love it. So for those of you who are new, this is Drew, one of our sound designers. He's joined us a couple of times before and always brings really, really fun stuff. So I can't help but notice that you set your belt on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 2-inch belt.
Why
So
a belt?
well, so we have the fireball, and that
Right.
kind of it's a little more consistent, and we did a pendulum thing. Okay, so here, let me back up to
Yeah.
Fireball Video 1, right? It was our first maiden voyage of the Fireball.
Yeah, longtime
And-
players will remember we've showed this video.
Right, exactly. And we were doing more swinging around and getting the Doppler, getting just the looping sound. And at the end of that, we kind of swung it like a pendulum to the mics, and so you get this,
Yeah.
and that turned out to be a whole bunch of transitions and used a lot. And so in this time around, we focused mainly on the pendulum swinging and getting that kind of really fast motion and that kind of that velocity that can be used in deploying the wings of the Phoenix glider and so much more. And so the belt was kind of another, how can we do fire a different way? You don't want to do the same thing over again because you get the same results, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you bring out some other toy and catch it on fire, this would be a belt, you get strange results. And this had a lot more whippy, and so when you deploy the Phoenix glider, you have the original fireball, and then you have this whipping around in space of the kind of embers falling off the wings. And so it's very stereo, and it just makes it very dynamic and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're banking, it does that. And it was very. After I did it, was like, this is cool. And so we brought some more
What
white
else can
gas
we
on
burn?
and burned it some more. And we did it burn some more. I shall say, please be careful if you do any fire. We had water hoses. We had several
Yes.
people there on set. We're very conscious of how dangerous this can be, even though
It
can be
wasn't
fun
just
also.
like you and Jerry were sitting around having a couple beers
No,
and thought,
no,
hey,
no,
you
no,
know
no.
what'd be cool?
No, we don't do that.
Okay.
Exactly.
Tully, on our blog guy, Tully had a very important question. Where did you get the Phoenix for the cry when you take off?
The cry. You know,
And as soon as he asked it, I was like, hey.
I have used an actual animal when I was designing it, and then I found a synth patch that actually mirrored that texture, and so I could shape it more and make it longer instead of just this "Wah." Like that wouldn't be
Yeah.
as dynamic
A
as
squawk.
following the flame embers and
Mhm.
kind of just following the whole wave with this screech. And then it's a little more abstract. I think it makes it more fun and fantasy
Okay.
than being so traditional. Here's a bird, and I just stretch the bird. Yeah.
Okay, so no actual birds were stretched.
No
actual
no
phoenixes
birds were harmed in the
harmed.
making of this
I
glider.
feel like stretching an entire animal is harming them. I mean, it's covered.
Well, you're stretching the sound, not the
Yes.
actual bird.
Yes. And
Yeah.
no, there was no actual phoenix, so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to jump right into talking about the various dialogue sounds and the general ambient sounds in Twisted Castle, but there was a good question first. Can you answer that?
Which one went that?
Where did the idea to give some of the unique boss weapons sound effects come from? Is that anything you can talk about yet?
Well, I will say Keenan, Sig, and Cody
Yay.
Crichton did a lot of work, as well as Jerry Schroeder. And
I don't know. I'd ask you.
they did a ton of work on this stuff. And so I know Keenan and Jerry concept up a bunch of skills and kind of made a palette, and I threw in a few for the final Zira doing her voice processing. I did some of the keep construct, but mainly that was Keenan and Jerry.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So they did some really cool stuff. It's Mesmer, so they just kind of take some of that and then just explore new ways of creating new sounds, and it's taken to another level, right? She's getting bigger, smaller, and jumping around, and it changes the combat from you have the keep construct, which is more traditional. He's stone, you have these very impactful things, and then you have this very magical Mesmer shifting, shifting stuff around. So it's I think the whole thing kind of contrasts each other well.
All right. So that was your surprise question for the
Yeah.
day that I
Yeah, yeah.
sprung on you with like 5 minutes warning.
Sure.
Let's talk about stuff that you're prepared for instead of me throwing this at you. We had talked a little bit when the others were here before about all of the voiced and interactive dialogue
Mhm.
that's coming through there. how did you even begin to get all of that in there and make it work so well?
Yeah, Keenan did a good job of working with the designers and Bobby and kind of exploring, well, what if it was contextual, like you have a profession, you have a gender, you have a race and that kind of thing, and then working off of that too. So there's, as Bobby just talked about, there's different levels of, we have these lines and these pools, but then it's very poignant to who you're talking to or that person is, that NPC is addressing. And they're looking at each other and, like everything is like, well, that was right. That's weird. So yeah, I think we're really kind of breaking into a stride here and trying new things and working with the dialogue system and pushing it a little bit more. I think we had to get a little more help with it to bring it to that level, but I think it works really well and
Works out super well.
Yeah.
The player characters coming in, because you're obviously not going to have somebody in there soloing a raid.
Mhm.
I don't know. Some of you might be trying it. I have no idea. But you have multiple player characters like standing around with Glenna, and there's more back and forth with the player characters than there was before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are really spreading your wings here.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was a terrible pun with the Phoenix thing, and I was sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the forgiveness. So you guys, that's like you said, you are making big strides, and you're doing a lot more here.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of players commenting on it, so they're liking it.
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of player voices and all of that, as you go through the Twisted Castle, we were talking about the madness mechanic
Mhm.
that Teddy put in there.
Yeah.
And you start hearing things.
Yeah. Cody worked on that, and your character starts to go mad on stacks of these buffs, and so you'll start to kind of progress into this madness, and stranger things will kind of come in. I kind of foreshadow Zira in there.
Yeah.
I took some of her scream and stretched it out, and that's kind of played in the background, so you kind of get her sense that she's out there and she's puppeteering it maybe, but it's kind of on the down low.
But you start feeling her presence.
Yes, you start feeling her presence. I think that's kind of fun to do, as if this is a long, you're going to be playing this raid wing for a while. How can you kind of stitch in these little nuggets?
Yeah. So we have the Zero Screams. We also
Yeah.
have, but underlying that, I mean, music has been a huge thing that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And you've got this combat music that shifts in and out of intensity, which is
Yeah.
something we talked about last year, but you guys are doing more with that too.
Yeah, and I think we were playing through the final level and the runs and jumping between islands, and we kind of needed something that was a little more chaotic and less full, and so McLean turned around a new track for us and saved the day. I mean, it's really cool.
As he does.
And yes, exactly.
Thank you, McLean.
And Keenan stitched it all in and made sure that it's turning and switching at the right phases. It spent a lot of time. Keenan spends a lot of time on these instances.
Can we brag on Keenan and Cody for a second?
I'm bragging on them.
No,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I want to specifically point out, I mean, Keenan said this was like the first time he's done a lot of this, putting
He
this
did more
stuff
sound
into the
design
game.
too, and so yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see, and it's cool to have this level from Jason and Bobby and Teddy and their, the whole team, their level of passion, and then these guys come in and kind of add all the audio sweetness to it and just make it come alive and make it feel so real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
Yeah.
You guys had talked a bit in the Keep Construct. We keep laughing every time we say the Keep Construct, the audio video. In the audio video about making this like super heavy, very physical, very rock and stone audio for this combat, and then you switch immediately, not immediately, but you go through and you switch in the same raid instance to this really pulled back, mesmer, magical, this kind of almost ethereal feel. And how did you go from one to the other? How did you even get there?
Well, yeah, and I think it's kind of easy to, like, the Keep Construct is made out of stone. He's large. He's, what is he, 15 feet tall, and
Sure.
15, 18, 19 and a half.
Somebody get in here and tell us how tall the keep construct is.
Yeah. And so it's a little more traditional, and so I think it's easier to make them from acoustically sound large and fantastic. And I'll do them again. I'll do some gutturals. You know, the scraping,
Yay!
the intake, that's kind of like the scraping of a stone. Cameron and I did that, and like the kind of that kind of hits, and then erode that and add the scrapes and stones and bass and take it down in octaves and make it really full. Where Zira is this fantastical mesmer, and so how do you make her big? You can't just pitch her voice down, and so we kind of played with delays and eroding and kind of shifting and stretching, and so it's just kind of this contrast of kind of more traditional and then a newer kind of style.
Well, and the thing with Zira, that something that Keenan was saying to me that I thought was really, really interesting is that when she's like, 80 feet tall, we're just making up numbers about how tall things are now. But
And there's 5 of her.
And there's 5, there's totally 5 of her. But when she's in that form, it's not that she is a physically big creature. It's that she is a projection, and she needs to sound like that.
So it's we kind of mix the outer, in space, that's kind of the echo, like it's rippling across the land, or it's telepathic. It's kind of like in your head.
She's projecting it right in.
So it's kind of a gray line between which one it is, but it is a little more.
Yeah, it's not just
fantastic.
Enormous deep booming.
Yeah, it's kind of like Mordor Moth, and he was big that way.
Yeah, that was super loud.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about the really fun part? Do you want to talk about her screams?
Her screams. Well, let's do
we
do
listen?
the voice processes first.
Okay.
So
I'm just very excited about the death scream.
yeah, the metal scream, as everyone's calling it.
Yes, the metal scream. Then she
Yeah.
smashed a guitar.
Exactly.
Okay, but we'll
so
talk about
the voice
processes.
processing.
Yeah.
There's to make it fantastic, you can kind of add these delays, and so, but it needs to be intelligible. Like all the voice in the game needs to be intelligible.
Yeah.
And so, how do you do that? We did some delays afterwards, but we did some delays at the beginning too. So it kind of ramps up like, and so you kind of get this size with just a backwards delay, and then she says the line. And as she's saying the line, it's stretching and morphing and kind of rippling. And then at the end of the line, it will kind of erode and the pitch will go down. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Go ahead and play one of the lines if you can.
Yeah, let's
Send in reinforcements!
So it's almost reminiscent of like when we have ghosts in the game that are screaming at you, but there's a difference.
Yeah, it's not so much of a reverb, which would be like, and that kind of gives it that spirit is inhaling and then saying the line. This was kind of, the dimension is rippling, like her, because she's a mirror, she's a projection or something like that. So it's kind of like this is rippling through space and then saying the line, and then it erodes. I think we have a couple more too.
Yeah,
if
can
you
we
want to
listen to
play.
her some more?
You'll never win.
I mean, we might win.
Maybe.
I don't know. Jason says we're going to win.
It's up to you.
It's up to you and 9 of your closest friends.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
So the death scream.
Yay!
So I originally got a short sniblet, and it's like, okay, we got to sell this because
what is this?
This is on a platform. She is in human form, and it's our time to kind of give this big finale to this large thing you've been battling for a long time.
Yeah, you've gone through this whole thing, and then you have
Right.
this.
Right. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe we can do more.
So we took it and I started bringing it in and stretching it out, and I did like 2 or 3 versions of stretching it. So there's programs where you can actually take a piece of audio and then just pull it, keep the same pitch, but stretch it out in time so you can make it, 4, 5, 10 seconds long, a year long. It doesn't really matter. And I didn't use
Don't
a year
make it
long.
a year long. Thank you.
No, I didn't. We'd be here forever.
We'd be here for a year.
Yeah.
It's true.
And so, and then as that's going along, you kind of shift it and kind of feed back into itself and erode it. And then at the same time, so in the cinematic, she screams, she dies, and then you see the other props kind of come up behind you, and then they dissipate. So it was this kind of a whole large, bubble of audio. There's a big explosion at the beginning too that kind of punctuates the big event. It was really, really, really fun to do.
So do we
Yeah.
have the ability to see that and listen to it? I have like a huge thumbs up for Mark. Okay, go for it.
There you go.
That was so much better than just a little ow
Yeah.
or just like a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
wimpy scream.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, what was and same thing with the rest of the devs. If you guys have questions, we will take them at the end.
Mhm.
So if you have any last ones besides the weapon thing that I threw at you without giving you time to think about it, totally throw those in chat and we'll see if we can pick out a couple. But what was the best part of designing this for you? What was your absolute favorite part?
Well, the death scream was a lot of fun.
I feel like that was kind of a given question.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what your second favorite thing was? Will that make it? Is it setting your belt on fire?
So I
Okay.
mean, well, no, that's the Phoenix Gliders thing.
Yeah.
I really wasn't catching anything a fighter for the raid swing. I think working with Cameron and coming up with new gutturals and working on new prop bosses is a lot of fun. And each time we kind of explore something different. I think that's kind of cool. Hey, there's this new boss coming up. Oh, really? Tell me about it. And then we kind of concept and then go in and have fun in the Foley studio and then start sound designing for it. But then just seeing it all come together, seeing all the parts, all the music, all the implementation, all the sounds, and all the effort that the team, puts into these events. And then when it all comes together and the fans play it, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been watching everybody's reactions to, oh my gosh, because I've seen some people saying, well, my character said such and such, That's like I was talking about my character, my human female, went up to the Sol d'Alessio statue, got super judgmental.
Right.
But then if you go in with a Mesmer, which I was not, she's like, I guess there is okay.
Yeah.
She's an all right Mesmer.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been neat watching you guys push forward and do more and more with that. Are you planning on continuing to
Maybe, possibly,
push
yes.
on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Can't tell you things.
Yeah.
So, all right, sweet. Thank you very much for
Absolutely.
coming and talking about that and showing us setting all of your things on fire. So.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be more fire. Hopefully. In a
The
controlled
shifty-eyed,
way.
in a very controlled,
Yeah.
safe manner.
Yeah.
The shifty-eyed thing makes me feel like you're going to set things on fire and people aren't aware of the
Yeah.
things that you're going to set on fire. A little frightened, mostly excited to see what's next.
Yeah.
So, all right. Guys, thank you for coming and hanging out on this Guild Chat, and I will see you on the next one.